Hi.
Hello.
I had 3 stubbed toes I had to deal with real quickly.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah. So, we got the boss. And so, let's just cut straight to the chase. It's pretty crazy right now. Like, you're finally getting to the main event at a Royal Rumble against Rousey. So, does it feel like things have changed? Because we were talking about Balor getting a shot at Lesnar. You're getting to work with Rousey. Like, it feels like something might be happening.
It's kind of crazy. It was really unexpected too. When I found out I was going to be facing her, it was just really out of the blue. I found out the day before Raw, and I was just like, "Wait, huh?" Of course, that's how WWE always works. You never know what they're going to be doing. They tell you one thing, and the next thing you know, something's different. But it's honestly really cool because last year, having the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match, I got to open that match and be part of that match for 54 minutes. So now going into this year's Royal Rumble, actually be part of the title picture. It's kind of crazy full circle life is.
So you're going to do both? You're going to have the match with Ronda and be in the Rumble? Is that correct?
No, I won't be in the Rumble because I'll be winning the title, so I don't need to be in it.
Yeah, that's true.
Damn!
Or what you could do is you can win the title and win the Rumble, and then nobody... You can handpick your next challenger.
Well, would that be fair to the other girls? It's never fair in wrestling, right? Why not?
Yeah, right? Yeah, you're the boss. You do what you want. Right? I'm just worried that you're going to kick us off our own podcast like you did the Edge and Christian show.
Oh, that was... I feel bad about that. You know, going back, I get gifts of me dressing up as Donald Trump. I'm just like, what the hell was I doing?
Yeah, especially now, right? It's just like, oh my God.
That's before we knew. It's all right. It's okay.
Yeah. And at least we were making fun of him. So
exactly.
Yeah. But
so you talk about like because we've talked about firsts on this show, and you've been involved in a lot of firsts, you know, in terms of women in wrestling, whether it's, you know, Hell in a Cell and all of these different things. At what point, I guess what I'm trying to say is what's keeping you hungry?
What keeps me hungry is just always striving for more. I feel like it's cool having these first time evers, but it's never enough for me. I want consistency. I want consistency with the, you know, long storylines, consistency of having longer matches on Raw, consistency of, you know, just striving to always continue to be the best and never settling for less. It's always amazing being part of first time evers, but I want to be at a time where it's considered something normal. And I feel like we're really getting there right now with, you know, you see on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live that the women are getting to main event, you know, the TVs now. And it's just like, not saying that it's not special anymore, but it's really cool that it's becoming something that is normal. And even seeing our live events and seeing that the women are closing out live events, which I never thought that would be possible. It's so insane. And them just announcing the tag team women's titles, it's just like, there's always going to be something more to strive for. And that's what keeps me going, is just, I want to be the best, and I want to do this as long as I can while being absolutely happy, because I love wrestling with all my heart. It's the only thing that I know and love. So that's what strives me. I feel like I just have to continue to show the world what women wrestling can do within this company. And I know that we can take over and just keep on striving for more. And you know, hopefully soon we can also main event at WrestleMania one day. But just to see how far we've come since a while ago to now, it's been incredible.
Well, we've talked about the very real possibility of having a women's main event this year at WrestleMania. And I think it would be perfectly fitting. And, you know, I get a sense from you, from talking with you in the past, and also, you know, seeing the way that you carry yourself and the pride that you take in what you do and hearing what you just said. I mean, you're not happy with being, you know, I've always said kind of getting to WWE and staying there and going places are two different things. You're not happy being a passenger. You want to be driving the car. You know what I mean? And I get it. I mean, that's it. And I think that all the greats have that mentality or that inner thing where they're just, complacency is never there. It's never enough. And I really get a sense of that for you. Is that something that you've kind of carried with you your entire career, like from the moment you started training?
Oh, absolutely. I never wanted to be second best. I feel like with anything you do in life, you should strive to be, number one. You should strive to be the best. Like, I don't get how people can be here and just sit around and wait for their turn. You know what I mean? Like, or be okay with like having a match one week and the next week they're off for two, and then come. It just, I don't know how you would do that when this job is so hard as it is, and you know, I feel like you have to work your ass off to get where you want to be, and you have to knock down those doors. And if you're not happy, you have to let them know. You know, don't just tell me that you're not happy. You have to show me. I have to show them every single week that I'm here to be the best. When I go out there every Monday night, within my matches, I want to make sure that I'm stealing the show or I'm having the best match of the night. So that's what strives me to be better, because I just can't be complacent.
Well, and that attitude, you need that, but sometimes that can rub people the wrong way. You know,
absolutely.
We talked about, yeah, but it's true. You got to rub people the wrong way sometimes because of a belief in yourself. And I think with Jericho, we've talked about it. It's kind of the asshole rule. At some point, you have to be an asshole in order to, and it doesn't mean be mean. It doesn't mean be a bully. It truly means that you don't want to be second best. You want to be pulling the cart, and you want to be the one that is spearheading this thing. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
But so you talked about, you know, right from the get-go, you know, from training that you felt this, you know, kind of drive and everything. But let's go back like even further to when it is that you decided this is what you want to do. I think I already know the answer to this one, but who it was that influenced you? Because if I remember correctly, I think I met you at WrestleMania 24.
Yeah.
You were there, and I was getting ready for my match with Taker, and all I remember is smelling barbecue. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I round the corner, and there's Snoop, and like a full-on barbecue happening. I'm pretty sure you were there.
I was there. It's so crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So Snoop was there for WrestleMania 24, and when I found out that he was going to be a part of it, I called him every single day saying, can you please bring me with you? I'm the biggest wrestling fan. So he brought me with him. And my birth dad, he's a cook, so Snoop brought him with him, and there was legit just this barbecue outside of his tour bus, and every wrestler came into the bus saying hello to Snoop and, you know, eating some ribs.
Yeah, that's all I could smell was ribs, and I was so hungry because I hadn't eaten, and I was like, I don't want to eat this close to the match, and I'm thinking it's my first WrestleMania main event. I'm like, all right, this is big, and all I can smell is ribs, and I was so damn hungry, so hungry,
so insane.
So anyway, so you love wrestling by this point. You go to WrestleMania. Does that further cement it for you? And like I said, who's the influences? What's the first thing that causes you to want to do this with your life?
Being crazy, I guess.
Yeah.
If you really think
Always
about
helps.
it, we are. You can't really be all the way there to do this, but in the sense you do to be able to stay to do this, we're crazy, huh?
Yeah, different breed for sure.
Yeah, I started watching wrestling fully when I was 10 years old because there was really nothing on TV, and I was just clicking through the channels, and the first wrestler I saw was Eddie Guerrero, and I instantly became hooked, and I knew from that very second any other dream that I've ever dreamt of as a kid just kind of went out the window, and I knew I wanted to be part of WWE. So from the age of 10, that's all I ever thought about. At the age of 12, I emailed every wrestling school in the whole world, and all of them told me, no, you had to be 16 or 18. So then there was one day I watched an RVD DVD, and he was doing MMA, and so I did MMA to try to get me ready for wrestling at the age of 13, and at the age of 18, I found a wrestling school and signed up.
Had you already started to train to wrestle then by the time you had gone to the WrestleMania in Orlando?
No, I was doing MMA, and the WrestleMania in Orlando, I was 16 years old. And I joined a wrestling school at the age of 18.
So when you went to the show in Orlando, was it like, okay, this is definite. I'm doing this?
Oh, I already knew by the age of 10 that this is what I wanted to do. I think just being backstage, I was just more of really, it just opened my eyes of how big wrestling is and just how much more I wanted to be a part of it. when Snoop was doing his rehearsals that day and like doing his entrance, all I can think about is like when I grow up and I get to walk down that stage by myself. That was all I could imagine, and just like I was freaking out inside, seeing all my favorite wrestlers and just being like, okay, be cool, be calm, because maybe one day you're gonna be here. I just remember being just so overwhelmed when I was there. I'm just like, oh my gosh, it was legit a dream come true. How many 16-year-olds can say they were backstage at WrestleMania?
Yeah, at 16, if I had been back there, I would have wet my pants. I mean, there's like, I don't know, seriously, I don't even know how I'd react. Like, what do you do at 16? Like, I wouldn't have been equipped to handle that. I know, women mature much more quickly than men, but still, like, I mean, talk about mind-blowing. And
Yeah.
so where did you start? Where did you train? And you started at 18, but who was it with?
So I started training at Chaotic Wrestling. It's called the New England Pro Wrestling Academy right now. It's in North Andover in Massachusetts. And my trainers were Brian Fury, Brian Malonis, and at the time, Handsome Johnny, who is now one of, I think his name is Warbeard here in NXT. He's still in NXT now, which is kind of crazy. So those were the three that taught me, but I learned a lot from Brian Fury. He really laid down the foundation of what it was and what it took to be a professional wrestler.
Well, yeah, because I think for anyone when they first start, I know, when I first started training, it was Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart were my guys. So
Insane.
Initially, I was like, okay, how do I be like them? And then you start to realize, oh, I got to do my own thing. You can implement yourself into some of the things you're doing. Did you find that with Eddie? Like, at first, did you just want to do frog splashes all day?
Oh, of course. That's all I wanted to do until in training. I did a frog splash and I went over the crash pad and I landed straight on my face, busted it, bleeding everywhere. And then I was terrified to do a frog splash until I got to the main roster. I was like, I have to do it for WrestleMania. But I was terrified ever since that to do a frog splash. But I really didn't feel like I found my way of what I was doing until I got down to NXT and I started working with Dusty Rhodes and training with the likes of Joey Mercury and Norman Smiley. I feel like those two really helped me with knowing who I wanted to be as a wrestler, but just teaching me just the littlest things that kind of made it click for me even more.
Yeah, it's hard at the beginning. Sorry, Jay, but I just think back to like getting in and just being a black hole of charisma. Just like no idea what to do with your hands. Like,
exactly.
It's a weird concept. You grow up watching it and you think, okay, well, this is it. But it is a hard thing to get used to, and I think we've heard from pretty much all of the guests on this show that at some point Dusty has put his fingerprints on them to help them kind of discover what it is, or Regal or Dreamer. Those seem to be the three names that always pop up, so it's nice to hear Norman and Mercury get their due too.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, when I first got started, I was just so thankful and happy that I got signed by the WWE, that I felt like I was too nervous to even try to stand out, because I was just trying to be myself, of just this happy-go-lucky girl, just like living her dreams, until I finally figure out, like, no, you kind of need a character here to stand out too. And at the time, I wasn't really being used, but just more being used as a good hand, so to speak. And I was kind of looking around what they had and what they didn't have down at NXT at the time, which were, heels. So I talked to Tyler Breeze at the time, who was trying to find his voice too and find his character, and he told me to write 10 different character pitches with different names and different backgrounds. And the first one I wrote was the Boss, because being around Snoop Dogg, all the people around him always called him the Boss. And at the time, Floyd Mayweather was out there, Nicki Minaj, just all these larger-than-life characters who were cocky, flashy, and flamboyant. And that's who I wanted to be, because I strive myself to try to be the best wrestler that I can. And I felt like I was the best, but I just didn't have that character to let people know that I was the best. So I was talking to Dream, and Dream helped me so much trying to find my voice of this legit boss character. And now I'm here today.
It's funny too. We talked about, we talked about earlier about, being a little insecure or whatever. And I think that has a lot to do with experience, right? Because when you're green or you're inexperienced and you're trying to, okay, you're trying to focus on the match and doing all the moves right, and you know, putting on a good match, it's almost like the persona part comes secondary, or you remember halfway through, oh yeah, right, I gotta look at the crowd, or I gotta, you know, put out a persona or do something with my personality. It's funny when it all ties together and it all just comes naturally, how much things change. When was the moment that kind of clicked for you where you didn't even think about doing either anymore? It was just a natural progression.
Ooh, that's so hard. I feel like being part of the group, the BFF with Summer Rae and Charlotte, at the time, Summer Rae was going up on the main roster and she would come back down for tapings, and just little things of her even telling me when to look at the camera, or understanding when the camera guys have their 5-finger up, you have 5 seconds, and then they're going to cut away from you. It's just like, it was little things like that where I just kind of understood the camera work of everything, and then wrestling kind of came easier with me, and understanding your character. But once you understand your character, you don't even have to think about the moves anymore. You just embody this character where the moves almost become second nature, and everything just kind of flows together because you're kind of thinking, well, my character would do this here, or my character would be here, or sell this way. So it wasn't really until I got into the BFF group and then kind of branched off on my own, where it kind of really kind of clicked for me.
Yeah, it almost allows you to be in the moment rather than overthink.
Which I overthink way too much as that is all the time, but yeah, in a sense, yes.
And I think it's okay to overthink before a match, but once you're in it, I think you're in it, and that's when the instincts, and that's when those things that you talked about eventually take over, and you just stop thinking and just do. And you talk about, like, Dusty, of all people, like, talk about owning being the American dream, and what a great example. Like, if you're going to be the legit boss and somebody's going to show you how to own it, Dusty's the guy to show that. Because you watch those promos back, I mean, just magical stuff. And it's always good to hear Dusty stories on here. So the BFFs, and then after that, how long is it before you start doing your own thing, and now you're working, Charlotte, and you're working Bayley at takeovers and things like that? Because we'll get into that match with Bayley at takeover because it deserves its own conversation. But how long is that transition for you?
For me, so it was the BFFs, and then Charlotte broke away from us, and she had that takeover match with Natalya. And as my character saw that, I was very jealous of that, and I knew that I was better than her. So that happened, and then Charlotte won the NXT Women's Championship. And then I think it was Bayley before me that faced her. But once I was next in line for the NXT title run, that's when my character really started to come out, just showing the world that, I can say it, but let me prove it to you in the ring that I truly am the best. So that happened, and then we had this fatal 4-way match with myself, Becky, Bayley, and Charlotte, and that's when I won the NXT Women's title. And for me, that was such an insane moment, because I was being called up on the road just to do live events, but still down at NXT, so I wasn't around those girls for, why they were trying to plan it and thinking about how to put this match together. But I remember winning that match, and, in the ref's ear, they're like, you need to smile, be happy that you won. And I was just like, no, this is my character. I'm pissed off that you didn't believe in me. And then I remember I came in the back, and I started crying my eyes out that I just won this title. And Triple H was just like, why didn't you do that out there? I'm like, because that's how I felt. So just crazy that, like, I know how I would feel out there, but when I come back through the curtains, I'm not Sasha Banks anymore. I'm just Mercedes that got to live this dream of winning this title that, you strive to have since you're a child. That's all you dream about, is being a champion and holding it up in front of all these fans. But that's when I kind of just started to click, knowing that this is who my character was. I was very angry that, I was being overlooked and underused, and now here I am winning this title. So I'm not going to smile and cry of tears of joy. I'm going to show the world that, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. This is what I deserve. So I'm going to be pissed off holding off the title, being like, screw you guys, I did it by myself.
Well, I like the sass on that. And kudos to you, because, so many times you'll see a heel win a championship, and because of their reaction, you realize there's real emotion there, and it's like it's hard to boo that. And I think back to like when I first won the champion, I think I just started headbutting it. I wasn't thinking of what I was doing. I just started headbutting it. And I went, that actually hurt. But it was hard not to let that real emotion come through, and I had to fight it. And so, like I said, kudos to you for not letting that, not losing sight of your character, because that can be difficult.
It is, yeah.
All right, so let's.
When I first won the world title. I remember when I first won the world title, I just ran out of the ring as quickly as I could before they realized that I actually won it, and they changed their mind.
But then they caught up to you the next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the match with Bayley. I know there's a lot more to cover, but we only have so much time, right? We don't want to keep it too long, but we got to talk about the match with Bayley at TakeOver. I mean, what's your preparation? What's your mindset going into that? What's your mindset during it? What's your mindset after? Because I think that was one of those instances. I remember watching it, and it's very rare now that I'll remember. I remember watching that match, and I watched it live. I watched it happen. I was like, oh, damn. Okay, some stuff just changed. So how did all of that feel?
Ah, man. That's so crazy to think about that match. Anytime I think about it, I get emotional. But for me, I knew I was going to be called up on the main roster permanently, and I wasn't going to be going back to NXT, which at that time NXT was really just taking off and becoming something so special. And this NXT TakeOver was our first takeover outside of Florida. And, they were calling this, our match, the co-main event. But I'm just like, there's no such thing as a co-main event. There's only one main event. But for me, I just wanted to have the greatest match ever, where people remembered exactly what Sasha Banks is and what she brought to the table. And it's so weird when things just click, they do. And for me, anytime I've had a big match, the night before, I can envision it, and I can envision the feeling, and I can envision the fans' reactions. And I remember doing my entrance and just hearing the crowd right away. I remember, like, before I went out there, I was, like, screaming, crying, freaking out. But the moment my music hit and I heard the fans, I'm like, wow, this is going to be easy. This is going to be great. And there was just something about that match where everything just kind of clicked, and, our moves just meshed so well. And the story was just so easy to tell because, since day one, I was just this bully to Bayley. And this Bayley was just this superhero to so many young little girls. And, any takeover or any NXT taping, you would see so many little girls dress up as her. Because she's just so relatable, of being the super fan, of never giving up on your dreams, and having people like her. And for me, that's like someone who I always wanted to be, but it just didn't click for me that way, where I had to go a different direction with my character to be this over-the-top bad guy, and kind of pretty much the complete opposite of Bayley. But that night was just so magical, where just everything was just clicked. And it's kind of hard to explain exactly what made it so special and perfect. It just was special.
Well, I think like you just said, two characters that were complete opposite ends of the spectrum, and like the story had already been, established before you guys got in there, and that helps a ton as well. And like you said, people were just relatable to her and her struggle of, trying to win the big one that she seemingly couldn't do, and you almost kind of holding that over her head, right? Like, you can't win the big one. And
exactly.
There's just a lot of emotion. And when you built that story, and when she finally pulls it off, like the roof about blew off the place.
It was incredible. Probably one of my favorite matches I've ever had in my whole career so far.
Well, there's nights like that when okay, we got a good one mapped out here. This could be cool. But then when you hear just from music how the audience reacts, or how they're reacting throughout the night, and then you really know, we have an opportunity here. There's a canvas here. we can paint on, we can do something really special now. Because before you came on, we talked about how a not so good audience can maybe bring a show down a notch or two, and a really great audience can make all the difference in the world. But then when you get this great match with the great audience, it can be kind of rare that it happens. But there's no better feeling. There really, really isn't. And like I said, I remember watching that one thinking, oh man, they just nobody's going to follow that. and some stuff just changed. So good for you. And
Thank
also
you.
good for you in knowing, hey, not everybody can be the Bayley. Like, because Bayley has just that intangible thing that I think little girls, like you said, she's very relatable because she was that fan and everything. But there always has to be, and I think both of us made a career on it, there has to be the counterpoint to that. And that's fun to do, especially when you find that that's the pocket that you work best in. What do you prefer? Do you prefer being face or heel, or is there even that anymore? I don't know.
Yeah, is there even that anymore? Who knows anymore? For me, I love being a bad guy. I felt like it came when I first started. It did not feel natural at all, and then it just kind of clicked. But I get on the internet all the time, like, when are you going to turn heel? When are you going to turn heel? I've been a baby face longer than I've been a heel so far in my career in WWE. And when I first turned baby face, I thought that was like the hardest thing to do. To get people to like you naturally is so hard. And like, I still feel like I struggle with it to this day, but I love just learning and growing. And I think whatever role they want to give me, I just want to knock out of the park. But I think just being a heel is so much funner, because I like when people boo me. I like pushing those buttons and seeing what I need to do or what can I do to make people just like boo the whole building out of It's kind of crazy feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I love getting booed out of the building. I don't know why. I just did.
Yeah.
People chanting "Christian sucks." I don't know. To me, that was like the best cheers ever.
There's something from Philly of hearing those reactions over someone cheering you in a way. I have no idea why, but that's just what I like or prefer.
Well, and here's what I've found is, like, over the years, and I think as you mature and you get out of, kind of the preteen and the teen years, and you start to get into your 20s and everything, you look back. Because I know I look back, and like, it was Hogan that I initially was like, whoa, what is this guy? As I got older, though, it was like, okay, well, Shawn and Brett and Mr. Perfect. And then now I look back and I watch Macho and I watch, Piper, and I'm like, oh my gosh. That was like, they were, I don't know, being a heel, I think, ages like a fine wine. You often look back and go, wow, those were the guys that actually, like, and now women, thankfully, are getting the opportunity that are going to, I think, 15, 20 years down the road, after they go through their Bayley years, they'll look back and go, oh man, what Sasha was doing, like I do with Macho Man.
Yeah, that's crazy to think of like that. Ugh.
Yeah,
I don't want to grow old.
It's
I'm not
Trust
ready.
us, it sucks. Trust us, it sucks.
But I've had repeated like instances over the years where, like, man, we loved Cena and we hated you, but then as we got older, we realized, like, oh man, we wouldn't love Cena if we didn't hate you. And
Exactly.
that's an amazing thing, and I just, like I said, the Macho Mans and the Roddy Pipers and the Paul Orndorffs of the world, it just is key. So anyway, so you get the call up to the main roster.
Yeah.
How does it feel different from NXT, and what is that kind of transition like? Because we've talked on this show before about we don't look at it as a call up, we look at it as like a lateral call, but there's still differences. So how did you find navigating that?
It's night and day. I mean, NXT, we do tapings like once every 2 months. And then, of course, we have our live events, but we also train every single day. But we're also very protected where when we did those away loops in different states, we would have, a bus and we would travel as a team. When you're up on the main roster, you do this stuff all by yourself. It's live every single Monday night. It's live every single Tuesday. Plus our live events where sometimes there can be drives that are 6 hours or 5 hours and you get no sleep and you have to be very independent. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned. And it's since getting called up on the main roster, but just also doing TV live every single week that things can change legit 5 minutes before you go out or time will get cut and then you have to just adapt that quickly. We're down in NXT, everything's kind of like set in stone. You don't really lose time because it's a taping. They can cut and edit whatever they want. So I think that's the biggest difference for me, which is like the independence of it more being on the main roster.
Yeah, and that's a huge challenge too, because you become basically your own manager in a way. The way I would always do it was get home from SmackDown on Wednesday, throw in my bag straight into the laundry, then start mapping out rental cars and hotels for the next loop. Get the laundry back out, put them right back in the bag, and then they were ready. And then I had like a day to recalibrate. I think that's one of the things that can be shocking, is the fact that there is this grind and then the actual fun part, the part that you didn't need to pay us to do, you still have to perform after that, 23 hours of grind. And I think that is still something that is shocking to some people, even when I talk to people outside of the industry that go, so how's it work? And then you explain it and they're just dumbfounded.
Yeah, they don't get it. They're like, wait, what? You have to drive yourself? You're like,
you don't have a jet? You don't have like a jet with your logo on the side? No.
Exactly.
I think maybe Rocky has that.
How long did it take you to to adapt to that new kind of world, as far as, like I said, getting rental cars and hotels and finding a place to eat and to work out? Because, obviously keeping, that's part of it as well, right? Part of the job is getting to the gym and eating properly and all those sorts of things. Like what kind of adjustment period was that for you?
I feel like I'm still learning how to do it the right way. I will get to the airport and not know where I'm going. I just hand them my ID. They're like, where are you going? I'm like, I don't know. Here, just you tell me where I'm going. I don't know. And like the day of, I'll get a rental car. But for me, what I've learned the most is like bringing your own food on the road so you don't have to stop anywhere. When I first got on the road, it was hard for me to get rental cars because I was too young. I think at the age of 23 is when you can rent. And I got called up on the main roster, I think, when I was 22 or 23 or something like that. So it's everything I'm learning. Still, like, getting into the gym on time and making sure I get to the arena on time so I can still get in the ring. And eating healthy on the road, it's very hard, especially when the drives can be so crazy sometimes, where it's either 2 hours one night, the next night is 5 hours, and do you want to go halfway or do you want to go the full way? And how expensive hotels can be sometimes is it's not easy. The hardest part is the traveling. What we get to do in the ring is the fun part and what we look forward to, and that's only legit 10 minutes that we get to do that, and the traveling's everything else.
Yeah, there's a lot of time management involved for sure. So it's got to be when Bayley gets called up, is that a relief? Like, you finally have somebody that you can do all of this with and spitball all of these things with?
Yes, she makes my life so much easier. But the thing is, I'm a morning person and she's a night person, so our schedules don't mash up when we wake up in the morning. I'm like, get up, it's time to go. She's like, 1 more hour. We're working on it.
Well, that's where Jay and I got lucky, is we had each other, but we always pretty much worked on the same schedule, and we also ate like feral wolves. So, like, seriously, we would go to, like, I don't know, Cracker Barrel, and Jay has somehow developed the system that he can eat a pancake in one bite.
What?
It shouldn't be possible. It's
wow.
It's horrifying to watch. It's like a boa constrictor. And we would randomly have people people kind of come in the car, whether it was Lance or the Hurricanes over the years, and they would just sit looking at him dumbfounded. Like, I eat fast, but he eats like it's a trough in front of him and just houses stuff. It's kind of grotesque to watch. But other than that, we're very much on the same schedule, so it worked. But it's nice to know, at least, again, speaking from experience, that you got your buddy there to be able to just, even if it's just vent to, because there is a lot of venting with this job.
It is. And I feel like, you know, me and Bayley are like best friends, but down in NXT, we didn't travel together. I had a whole different car, so it's really when she got called up to the main roster where we became even closer. And I really think it's due to our match down at NXT TakeOver, where it was just like, there's just so much magic where I'm like, wow, this girl's supposed to be in my life for a purpose. And we really found out like how much we're pretty much like twins but opposite, traveling on the road and learning so much about each other because we have just the same dream and the same goal. And it is amazing to be able to talk to her about our dreams and chasing them. And that's why I think for this year, I think women's wrestling is just going to be even more special because all of last year, I feel like our career kind of was like at a standpoint where we weren't really doing much, or we were told one thing and the next thing was something else, or we thought we were going to be facing each other, then they stopped that. So we're like, okay, if they're going to make us a tag team, let's become the best tag team that we can possibly be, where we're training together, we're watching tape together, we're getting matching gear, and just to be told that they weren't going to have the titles, and the next thing you know, they introduced the titles. So it's just like there's so many goals and so many dreams that, you know, we stay up late on the road just talking about how we're going to achieve them all. And it's cool to see us talk about it, but now actually living it and seeing things happen, it's more incredible.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. I mean,
let's talk about those tag team titles because we've been talking about it quite a bit.
We talked earlier about, you know, you being a part of a lot of firsts, and like I said, the women's tag team titles, that's huge. And to, you know, like traveling and talking, it was very much like when Adam and I were growing up as well. You know, we've known each other since the 6th grade. We used to sit around in the backyard and talk about how one day we were going to be WWE tag team champions, and we'd have the whole thing mapped out. We had drawings of us in different outfits and what our gear was going to look like and all these sorts of things. And I remember the moment that it happened, we won the first ones. It was like, holy shit, like we did it. You know, after, you know, and it meant more because I was with him, a guy that I talked about it with and dreamed about it with. It's got to be the same type of feeling for you and Bayley if you were in fact to have a chance to wrestle for those titles, right?
Yeah, I'm smiling ear to ear just thinking about it. It's
I can hear it.
Gosh, yeah, it's like it's so giddy. It's so crazy. Yeah, I can't even think about it. I'll get way too giddy. It's just seeing the titles. Me and Bayley snuck in Gorilla just to look at them first and to touch them. I'm like, this is real. I just can't believe like things are real. It's so incredible.
Well, and I'm happy that they're actually cool looking because lately there's been a few that aren't that great looking, and those ones I saw them, I was like, oh man, I would love to win those. Those look
come
cool.
face us. We're ready.
Yeah, maybe we could dress up. Yeah.
I tell you what, we would be able to take all your moves. That much I know. We can.
And I'll put you guys over too.
But how amazing is it now to think like there's such a stacked roster, and the roster is so deep that you can actually do this properly now. And again, in past pods, you know, Jay and I have been talking about this, how it's just going to continue to get deeper and deeper because now you have a whole generation of girls that knows this is viable. Like, this is possible now. We don't just have to be in the stupid gravy bowl match. We don't just have to, you know, be out at ringside to stand there. Like, there was always the sensational Sherrys, God bless her, and the Medusas, Alundra Blazes, and so on throughout the years. But now it's gotten to a point where it's like, no, you guys are... gals, sorry, are main eventing, and it's such a huge part of the show. So there's going to be a whole generation of girls that are watching this and realizing they can do it too. So it's going to get better and better.
I think so too, and it's crazy to think when I was trying to get signed, I was still during that diva era where you had to look a certain way and to dress a certain way and to try to be this like model. And I knew I wasn't one. So it's so crazy to see the growth of that, and just seeing girls who actually want to become wrestlers and train to become wrestlers get signed because that's their dream, and not have it the other way around where, you know, they're just hiring models or just someone that has a pretty face and then teach them how to be wrestlers. It's the women that are actually coming in with the skill sets and they're just ready to be called up. And I think it's so beautiful for how many different backgrounds that we do have with WWE, you know, with NXT and NXT UK. And there's just so many talent that they just picked up where everyone can have, every little girl can have someone to relate to and look up to. And I do, like you said, I just think it's going to keep on getting better and better. It's so beautiful to watch as a fan and as a performer being a part of it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool if you were to just sit there and look, you know, because Beth has the Evolution portrait that was taken. And, you know, I just sat there looking, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, there's no one is a carbon copy of the other. Like, everyone distinctly has their own thing going on. And it's really a fun time, you know, to, you know, be a fan of it and to see it blossoming and growing. And then, you know, as Jay and I have talked about, we both have little girls, so it's, you know, even just seeing how much things are changing, not just in our industry, but throughout the world. And and it's pretty amazing. You know, there's still ways to go. Don't get me wrong.
And it's funny too that you said when you saw wrestling at 10 years old that you were instantly hooked. My daughter, she's been doing this thing the last little while where she comes in and out of her room when we put her to bed. You know, she comes out with random questions just so she can come out of her room, like, right?
Aww.
So I put her to bed and I was watching Raw. I turned Raw on one night and she walked out to tell me something random. I said, okay, great, and I'll go back to bed. And when she turned around, she saw wrestling on TV. And she sat there and she was in awe, and she just stood there and stared at the TV and didn't say a word, didn't move for like 2 or 3 minutes. And had her mouth like wide open, just staring. And I went, okay, all right. And I just kind of shoved her into the time to get to bed. You know, I don't want to, you know, I didn't want her to see any of that. You know, next thing you know, she's crazy anyway. She jumps off everything. Yeah, so
it's a slippery slope,
maybe
right?
in a couple of years we'll revisit this. But you know, but it's funny, like I said, how it can just grab you like that, right? I mean, it's got to be cool too. I know you do a lot of appearances and things like that, like at Comic Cons and stuff like that. But what does it mean when you see, you know, a little girl come up dressed like Sasha Banks? You know, you were that kid, and now there's another kid that's doing that. You know, to you, that's got to feel amazing.
It still doesn't feel real to me, because I feel like I'm just this super fan living her dream. So it's kind of surreal when you do go to these live events or you go to these autograph signings, and that they do dress up as you. But not only do they dress up as you, but when they come up to meet you, they just start bawling their eyes out and crying, and, you know, giving you letters and telling you how much that you mean to them. I'm just like, wait, me? How? But then I think about how Eddie did that for me, and it's just like, it makes what we do even more, that much more special and important, that, you know, I have to remember who I am and what I want to show the fans every time I go out to that ring. I just want them to feel how I felt when I watched wrestling, and it's so crazy to think that I could be an Eddie Guerrero to somebody.
Yeah, that can be a bit of it's a lot to process and take in.
Yeah, it's overwhelming for sure.
And there's also those surreal moments where there's these unexpected things. Like, okay, as a for instance, I remember where I was the first time I saw the first Edge action figure, and that just, like, something clicked in my brain. I went, oh, what just happened? And like, I went into a Gold's Gym, and there's a legit Boss, like, shaker, protein shaker.
Oh, I know, it's so crazy. Gosh.
You know, and so there's got to be those moments, right? But it's great that there's moments like that where you can still go, whoa, what is happening right now? Because I think the audience senses that. You know, the audience senses when you're still on this ride and still enjoying this ride. And I think they can sense when you don't, too. So all of that being said, being on a ride, let's get back to Royal Rumble and this match with Ronda, you know, because that's it feels like all of these matches are happening so fast in terms of fast. Like, like these could be built massively. And maybe part of it is they don't know how long she's on contract for. I don't know, but it just feels like these could be like each one of these could be a WrestleMania match.
Yeah.
So, but this is to me, it's the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. At least I like it a little better than SummerSlam personally, because the Royal Rumble's fun. But how does it feel going into this? You know, what do you think? Like, it feels like a completely different match for her than the matches I've seen her in so far, because you bring a completely different dynamic to it.
It's like you said, I do wish there was just more time to build, but I think that's with a lot of people's storylines. I just think we have way too many pay-per-views. I mean, once Royal Rumble's done, we have 3 weeks until Elimination Chamber. Once that, we have another 3 weeks until Fastlane, and then it's like 4 weeks till WrestleMania. It's just, there's never enough time where you can just sit and digest these stories. But for me, I do think this is going to be a whole different matchup than she's ever had. But even this is going to be completely different than what I've had in a long, long time. And it's hard because we've never trained together. We never worked with each other. We never touched each other. So I don't know what her movements are going to be in the ring. And that's kind of makes me nervous. But just being the wrestler that I am, I have to prepare myself just watching her tapes and just getting ready the best way that I can, and that's just going to the PC, or I'm going to be going to New York this week to train with my friend Amazing Red, and just having all these options ready for me when I do get in that ring with her and wrestle with her, because, you know, she's not a professional wrestler, she's a fighter, so she's going to be coming in completely different, and I'm not Nia Jax where I can just pick her up and slam her around, and it's definitely going to be just a really different matchup for herself and myself too, but I'm ready for it. I'm excited that it's at the Royal Rumble. And I'm ready for heads to turn.
You know, you said that there was wasn't enough time, but I think you did yourself a real favor on Monday with the promo that you cut after the tag match. I really like the way that, you know, she had kind of baby faced you in a sense where she said, you know, you were her dream opponent and you just weren't having any of it. You know what I mean? And I thought that you added a little friction there. Kind of told the story when there wasn't a lot of time to do so, but put a little bit of I don't want to say, you can't say heel spin, but you put some friction between you guys right away, and you know, basically told her that you're coming to beat her. And like I said, I thought you did a huge favor for yourself and for this match and the story leading up to it. How'd you feel about that promo?
I felt good. You know, for me, promos haven't really been my best strong suit. But I feel as I keep on getting older, which kind of sucks, the more mature I get and the more I actually think about what I say. And also I feel like now as a performer, I'm not really scared to speak up when I'm given a promo. And that's the beautiful thing with WWE and with them growing as well. If you get handed something and if you have questions about it, I'm not scared to go to Vince and ask him for changing it to make it into my own words. So for the past 2 weeks, I've kind of took liberty with that. The week before I wasn't supposed to say the B word, but it just kind of came out, and I feel like that added to that promo as well. So you just kind of always have to apologize later, but if you're trying to do the best that you can to make the story better, I think it's okay to do those things for the better of the story.
Yeah. Always ask for forgiveness. That's the classic. It's like, whoops, but did you hear the reaction?
I'm like, I just felt it.
You know what I've always done too, and going back to like, you know, facing an opponent for the first time or you know, not knowing their movements or speed, I would always try and relate someone to someone's matches I watched growing up. Or, you know, like for instance, you love Eddie. Well, who did Eddie work that was kind of Ronda-esque? And it's like, oh, well, Angle. You know,
right,
similar backgrounds. And yeah, and you know, cherry pick all the best stuff that you think could work, and then obviously make it your own. But I always found that was like so fun to like try and take, you know, stuff that a Sean did and go, how do you make this your own? But you know, the genesis of the idea, you know, can work because you saw him or them do it.
Right.
It's not really perfect. A question. I'm just, you know, basically throwing it out.
It's more of a good advice for me. Yeah. I love
it. Well, we probably should, you know, wrap it up here a little bit because, you know, we've kept you for pretty much full hour here on your day off. And like you told me earlier, you've done great reception at home, so you're actually sitting in a parking lot.
Are you serious?
Somewhere randomly on your phone.
Bless your heart.
Yeah, but you're somebody that we wanted to have on and chat with for a while, and just seemed like this was a perfect time with this big match coming up at Royal Rumble for you, and all the great things that you've done over the past couple of years, and being at the forefront of this women's revolution. A lot of it traces back to when you showed up with the other women and started this whole thing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
So have fun, knock 'em dead, and just have fun. That's always that seems to be the best advice.
Thank you. And tell Beth to team up with Natty again. Me and
Oh boy, Boss and Hug
We're
against
ready.
the Divas of Doom. Oh my
We're ready
gosh.
for it.
They're great bases for stuff, I will say that.
Oh. We pitched the idea and we got our hopes up, so I hope it happens one day.
Okay, well, I'll do some arm twisting here. Just like,
Please.
go on, honey. Get back in.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Good talking to you.
Thanks, guys.